YouTube channel. So I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm trying to keep you all like letting you know I didn't forget about you and I can handle this. I got it. But it is a little bit of I think it's probably like people who played pianos. And I don't know if anyone in the room here plays a piano, but I've always been amazed. How do you know what to do on the left hand at the same time you know what to do on the right hand? How do they do that? I am always super impressed. And I played the clarinet. So I guess I could say I did that too. When I played the clarinet, I was doing things on different hands. And in that, when you think about it's 10 different fingers know what to do. So if 10 different fingers can know what to do on a piano or a clarinet or a flute, I can do this on a Zoom call while we're going on live on YouTube and other stuff. So with that said, good morning and welcome. My name is Brenda Meller. I am your host. Today is Friday, September 8th, and we are the second Friday of the month. So our focus for today is on kind of like we call those office hours for coaches and consultants, speakers, and authors. So if you're here today, that means that you're a part of my community. You've heard about these calls from somewhere else. There may be a few of you who are entirely new. And what I'd like to do to start us off, the good thing is we are a smaller group, so we can go around the room and do an introduction, but I'd like to ask us to keep it brief, if that's okay. So a brief introduction, tell us your name, what your business is, and then if you do have any asks, I'm going to ask that you put them inside of chat. So an ask might be, I'm looking for this type of resource or service. We might pull some of those up into questions. Or if you're promoting, like right now, I'm promoting my upcoming webinar, Finding Leads on LinkedIn. So I'm going to drop that into chat so you can register for that. Okay. So I'd like to try to keep the introductions brief so that we can get through everyone, if that would be okay with all of you. Okay. I'm going to start by I'll just call on you one by one. And if you want to pass, you can just wave or just don't unmute and I'll give you a second and I'll move on to the next person. I hope that will be okay with everyone. So that's what we're going to do. All right. I'm going to start with Sue and then on deck will be Mindy. Good morning, Sue.
Hi, I'm Sue Griffey. I'm known as Sue Mentors in the virtual world. I have a global mentoring practice of professionals in transition. And just so you'll see them throughout, I'm the mentor with pom-poms, and I'll bring the pom-poms to celebrate whatever we're discussing. Thanks, Brenda.
All right, Mindy, and then on deck will be Sandra.
Thanks, Brenda, and thanks, Sue. I'm Mindy Stern. I am a business coach and leadership coach. I help people who are transitioning out of their current jobs into new jobs. I also help, I guess, directors and up. I hate to call it executive coaching because that scares a lot of people, but I do coach many director level and up, people who are in their current jobs, but they want more and they're looking for more within their own company, or they're looking to leave. Depends on the person. And so that's what I love to do. I also do a ton of team coaching for leadership, and that's where my passion lies. I've been in business about 10 years. It'll be 10 years in May when I transitioned out from corporate into solopreneur, and happy to be here. Brenda, thanks for having the time.
Thank you. Sandra, and on deck will be Veronique.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra, and I have extensive business experience in sales, business development on a global level, and I am looking for coaching roles in sales or business development and coaching a team, and looking for fractional opportunities. And my extensive business global experience will lend very well to that type of role. Thank you.
All right, Veronique, and then Dean.
Okay, I'm Veronique Fidel. I'm exploring this area. I'm trying to think, I'm in finance, so I'm exploring what angle I can do some sort of consulting work. Sandra brought up a term, fractional, which is another aspect that I'm exploring. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Veronique. Dean, and then we will go to Pam.
Hi, everyone. Dean Artruck. I'm an actual job seeker, full-time, but part-time. I run a job, I facilitate a job search work team in Connecticut, about 7,500 members. So I'm here to help myself be organized from the great Brenda Meller. So
I'm glad to have you, Dean. And I was like looking around the room and I was like, I think, I don't know if it's I don't know if this to women necessarily. It's just we had more women than men. But we're glad to have you, Dean. So thank you so much. All right, Pam Lippett, and then on deck will be did we go Santina already? We did. And my order got a little bit moved around. Did we do Santina? No.
No.
Okay, Pam and then Santina. I apologize.
It's okay. Hi, I'm Pam Lippett from outside of Detroit, Michigan, and I coach and work with solopreneurs and startup leadership. I'm in the process of rebranding myself as the voice on their shoulder when they can't talk to their team or they don't want to share information. I'm the confidant that will help them cut through the clutter. Thank you, Linda. Cut through the clutter and make decisions. And it's all through communications and how we move forward.
Great. Thank you, Pam. Santina and then Linda.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to learn from the group because I am going through a coaching program now because I have been denying myself and others for years when they say you should really do coaching. So branching out and looking to kind of do part-time employment, part-time coaching to build the business a little bit.
Excellent. All right, Linda and then Rachel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker, and I'm a job search coach. What I specialize in is helping people to discover and then highlight their transferable skills to help them find their next forever jobs, whether it's coming back to the workforce, whether you're older and being concerned about that, or whether you're trying to make a transition from one area to another.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. All right, Rachel and then Annette.
Good morning. I am Rachel. I am a financial wellness coach, and I work to help and support couples feel more comfortable and confident, not only in their financial decisions, but in having what can sometimes be tough conversations around money with each other.
Glad to have you, Rachel. All right. Then we have Annette, and then I have to kind of look through the list and see, let's see who has not gone yet. So we'll go Annette, and then we'll go,
I think Jen is looking for you.
Jen, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to navigate. I should have had people raise their hand. Could you do me a favor? Raise your hand and using the Zoom function, go to the reactions button in the bottom and click on raise hand if I've not called on you. Because now that we're getting towards the end of the list, it's trickier to do this. I do apologize. All right. Who is up next? I lost track now.
Me. So good morning. I'm happy to be here, and I am here just, to learn and exchange ideas. I work primarily with executives and entrepreneurs, and I am shaking things up a little bit and changing my business a little bit. And so I'm excited and nervous about doing that. And thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you, Annette. Thank you so much. Jen, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
That's all right. Thanks, everyone. Brenda, I'm so happy to be joining my first of these with you. I am a career empowerment coach. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois, and I work primarily with women who are, like some of you have said, wanting something more from their work, more purpose and more joy. I also recently started my podcast called Spark Your Power, and I will put a link in the chat. I would love, my ask for everyone here would be to go check it out and follow it. And if you know anyone who's made a really interesting career change who you think would be a great guest, let me know.
Great. Thank you so much, Jen, and congrats on the podcast. Very exciting. All right, we will go Jihan next. And then if anyone else has not introduced yourself, please raise your hand. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand using the Zoom function. So go ahead, G.
Hi, all. Thank you, Brenda. Apologies for the delay in attending because naturally, as happened, sometimes I could not find the Zoom link and I thought, did I sign up? Did I not sign up? So happy to be here. I'm Jihan, G. Haridiardnowski, G for short. And thanks to Brenda's encouragement, especially, I wanted to join in on these sessions as I'm doing a bit of a pivot. I work in the HR space and I'm focused on small to mid-sized companies and giving some HR consulting going forward. I will not bore with the pitch, but more to come from me, and it will not be dull. That's the one thing that I always pride myself on, is I'm not your typical conservative HR person. So I will make you not hate HR. So if you want to help me come up with a funky tagline or headline to incorporate, I'm working on that too. So anyway, nice to be here, and hi everyone. And that's it. I'm G, I'm done speaking.
Thank you, G. Remember the Clubhouse days? I'm G and I'm done speaking. I'm Joey and I'm done speaking. It was funny. Like that's how we used to sign off so people knew, because you can't see people and it was kind of hard to see. And I don't know. I mean, I know Clubhouse is still around, but I don't know how many people are using it these days. All right. I see a couple more faces that popped into the room. I'll just give you the chance to introduce yourself if you'd like. I'll call on you. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you can unmute. If you do not want to introduce yourself, just don't unmute, and I'll give it a second and then we'll move on. Joey and then Sandra.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, all. Sorry for being late. So I am an author, speaker, coach, depending on the hour of the day. I am retired from sales for 30 plus years, so I'm spending a lot of my time on these calls. And I've written a book. In fact, this week will be the 1-year anniversary of the launch. So, and I'm writing my second book now. I'm 20,000 words into it. And thank you, Sue. And it's fun, it's exciting, and I am identifying myself as an author. That's how I spend my days now. I write. I'm constantly looking for inspiration. I see things, I hear things, I watch things. There's a book everywhere. So, but I can only do one at a time. So I'm trying to be a master of all. But it's a lot of fun. It's exciting, and it's a great way to spend the day. So I'm happy to be on these calls, to hear from other people, maybe inject some of my knowledge and expertise, and of course, to learn something from everybody else. So thanks for having me, Brenda. I appreciate it.
Good to see you, Joey. Thank you. All right. I see a Sandra in the audience whose video is off. Sandra, would you like to introduce yourself? If so, please unmute. If not, I'll give you a second and I'm going to move on. Going once, twice. Okay. I think I got to everyone. Is there anyone who wants to introduce himself that didn't get a chance to? And keep in mind, this is something we can do right now while the group is small. I anticipate the group will get much larger in the future. We may not be able to do introductions. So I'm so grateful to all of you for making the time to join us here today. My name is Brenda Meller. I'll give my introduction. I help business professionals, solopreneurs, and job seekers to get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. Yes, you heard me correctly. Pie is kind of personal branding item for me. I love pie. Right now, I'm in a strawberry rhubarb kick. That's like my flavor that I'm really focusing in on. I crave that flavor right now. But I love all pies equally. So if you ever come across pie memes or things like that, send them. I like to share that because I think sometimes when you are self-employed, if you're a coach, consultant, speaker, or author, sometimes we get so focused on pitching ourselves and our business all the time that we forget that, sometimes you can relate to people on a personal level by sharing information that's not related to your business. Pie has nothing to do with LinkedIn, like nothing. It's not a bakery. It's not a good, it's a platform, right? But I've woven it into my catchphrase, get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. I've created a book called Social Media Pie. So I've kind of interwoven my love of pie into my love of LinkedIn and supporting others. And I created these office hours. I actually created these a few years back for job seekers originally. And we've been meeting for the past, basically throughout the pandemic, every Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. And we've had people come into the group and leave the group. And we've had people on a regular basis coming week after week. And I've had a group of people I deem all-stars, people like Sue and Mindy and Joey and Linda. And, there's been others as well where they've helped me facilitate the calls and they've helped with Q&A. And, we're volunteering our time week after week. And I felt like you have to kind of pay attention to the life cycle of things. And you may even experience this yourself in your business. There's like a vibe of things, right? And you kind of pay attention to that. And at a point where, think about like a battery starts to lose its effectiveness, you click on the remote, it doesn't quite work as well, and you bang on it and it works a little bit better for a few days, and then it starts to not work. And it's kind of like when you start to anticipate things like that within your business, whether it's a coaching product or a certain talk that you're giving as a speaker, or you're promoting your book in the beginning and you get a lot of traction, and then the interest starts to wane off over time. You got to pay attention to that, and that's not a bad thing. I believe that everything has a life cycle to it. And when you're self-employed, you've got to pay attention to those things. And you can only do CPR so much on something before you realize it's dead. It's kind of a weird analogy, but like you got to pay attention and say, okay, call it, and then move on. or even better, evolve it. So it's either a call it or evolve it type of an approach. So for me, with the Friday calls, for myself, I've always enjoyed the calls. It's a great group of people. I always feel great about giving back to people that are in career transition. It's free. And that really helps to support a lot of people that didn't have the money or budget to work with a coach. But at the end of the day, I don't want to go back to corporate either. I got to have money coming in for my business. And I also felt like the all-stars who were coming on, they weren't coming on every single call because it is a pull of their time every week to come on. Sometimes they would get referrals and sometimes, hopefully they would lead to business, but more often than not, it was just really giving back is what it was. So I started kind of thinking about I don't want to call it, but how do I evolve what I'm doing? So I'm still serving job seekers once a month, but I'm really loving this format of making myself available every Friday for an office hours type of thing. And if we work together in the office, I'd have like an open door Friday, like from 10 to 11. I'd go fill up my coffee just like I did before I got on the call. And I would have my door open and Pam and I would be sitting around and Dean might come and knock on the door and say, hey, I have a quick question. And we'd be like, Dean, what's going on? And we would chit chat. So I'm going to have this be like a facilitated discussion. So I'll help to lead the discussion, but I do want to have some time for each of you in the group to either share questions or if you have successes, things that you're working on with your business that you'd like to share, best strategies, tips, and things like that. We're going to ride the wave a little bit. This is somewhat new for me. This is, I think, the second month we've done this for this particular group. In addition to this live Zoom call that you get access to, it will also be live streamed onto YouTube. Julia, my intern, is on the call. I'm going to ask Julia if she could drop the YouTube link for the call into the chat right now. We've also created a playlist. So if you want to follow the playlist, then you'll be able to watch the last month's show and future shows. You can just like bookmark that. And we're also converting this into my podcast. My podcast is called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And we already converted the first show in, and we did it within like a week and a half, I think it was. So we will start to convert each of these shows into the podcast as well. So, hey, for those of you who have never been on a podcast, guess what? If you introduced yourself today, you're now on a podcast. Oof. It will happen magically. And once the show goes out, what I'm going to ask Julia to do is once the show goes out, I'm going to ask her to share the show link inside our private unlisted LinkedIn group. And while I'm describing that, I'm going to pull open my screen right now and share the group with all of you. Now, this is a private unlisted LinkedIn group. What that means is I'm not going to tell everybody who's listening what the URL is because you have to be in these calls in order to get access into the group. Now, when you come into the group, when you first visit this LinkedIn page for the group, you'll see a button that will say request to join. And that's kind of like you knocking on the door and I'm going to look through the peephole and see who you are. And if I see that you've been in on the call with us, I'm going to do this right now. Request to join is what I'm looking for. If I see that you have in fact been in on the call, I will admit, I'll be like, come inside. And I do this for a few reasons. One is I really want to make sure that the people that are in this group are people who are a part of our community. I think that's an important key. The other thing is it's private and unlisted, so we can start to share information and resources with each other that is not going to be publicly available. It's only going to be inside the group. So things like the Zoom link. And just before the phone call, I was watching my email. I was watching my LinkedIn messages. Did anybody miss the link to come in? And G sent me a message on LinkedIn, a direct message. She's like, I can't find the Zoom link. I messaged her back quickly. But this will be the place that I will ask for you to go in the future. Because usually what happens is after I start these phone calls, I don't go back into the group on LinkedIn and I can't check email and LinkedIn messages at the same time. So the analogy I always use in the job seeker phone calls or the Zoom calls was this. Back in school when they would train you how to do fire drills and you'd learn how to do a fire drill at school. And then they'd say you need to have a plan at home and you need to find like an outside meeting place outside of your house, a few doors down where your family could meet. Because if there's a fire in the middle of the night, everybody's going to be leaving whatever the nearest exit or window is. And you're not going to be able to meet on the front porch because there's a fire. So you're going to meet at the flagpole down the street or the basketball hoop or whatever. So I want you all to think about our private unlisted LinkedIn group as serving as our flagpole, so to speak. So if you ever can't find a link to join, go into there and Julia will drop the link into as a discussion. You'll see it right here. Good morning. Our Zoom is open. So she'll drop that in there for you. After the phone call, we will drop the Zoom, the YouTube link to watch the playback. And then once we get the podcast link published, we'll drop that in there as well. Okay. By the way, when the podcast publishes and your intro is included as a part of there, feel free to share that out on LinkedIn and say, I'm on a podcast. Needs to know that you weren't like interviewed for a half hour. You just did an intro on a podcast, right? But you were on a podcast. You can certainly help to promote that and spread the word for that. All right, so that covers off the LinkedIn group and some reminders about kind of the format here. We are going to be the second Friday every month, and I will let everyone know that if you registered once, the calendar invite that you received should automatically go on your calendar the second Friday of every month. It will automatically repeat. The Zoom link will be the same week after week. So you can use the same thing as long as it's saved on your calendar, you'll be all set. But if you ever run into trouble, go into the group. All right, enough about all that. That's kind of the housekeeping stuff. Let's start to go into some questions. So I'll ask you if you do have a question. The easiest way would be to use the raise hand function, because then I can see that you have a question. Or if you have something you want to add to the conversation, if somebody asks a question, you have an answer, please use the raise hand if you could. The larger the group gets, a little bit more challenging it becomes that we've got people speaking over one another. So I'm going to help to facilitate this. Sue did have a question earlier, so I'm going to call on Sue first. Hey, Sue, how can we help you?
I need some help with a sample script for a situation I'm finding is going on and on. I get a lot of requests through DMs on LinkedIn to help people with mentoring. And most of the time I'm able to have a 20 or 30 minute call. And most of the time they end up coming through my course, because right now I do mentoring for programs and I have a short course on professional presence and take very few private clients anymore. But I have had in the last couple months, a couple that are really pushing me. I'm right now booking, I'm not booking till next February for individual help, although they get it, a lot of it during the course. So I now have 2 emails from the same person asking for me to put her on my schedule for next February, even though she's desperately wanting to get a job now. And I've given her other opportunities. I offer office hours monthly, mentor time every 2 weeks, things like that. And I'm trying to figure out how to say no to several people right now who are just writing me over and over again when I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a comfortable fit for me and the other person. So I welcome this stage. I don't mind sharing it's a problem, but you can I imagine everybody has these kinds of things. Maybe I just get the more persistent ones, which I'm great. They've got persistence, but I'd like them to take my second no as a no.
So can you clarify for us, Sue, these calls that you're doing, are they paying you for your time?
No, I offer a complimentary call to almost everybody, and just so that they can start talking about what their issue is, because it isn't always, it's always some kind of transition, but it's not necessarily one I can help them with immediately for a variety of reasons. Okay. And part of it is because I know people need to feel heard, and this isn't anatomically correct for those who know I'm a nurse. When it goes from your back brain to your front brain, and you got to say it to Sue or one of us on a call, it comes out differently. And I use it as a form of their own self-reflection. So I like to give people value. And I'm not the only one. I know a lot of you on here offer a complimentary exploratory call. But I'm just trying to figure out how to let people know 2 or 3 times when they keep, it's not just the one person that the one time I say it and then I don't hear back from people. It is people that keep messaging me over and over again.
Okay, Pam, did you have something to offer to Sue? Oh, Pam, you are muted. Does anybody have a mute sign? Oh, there you go. We got an unmute sign.
Okay, first of all, Sue, congratulations that you're too busy, because that is just a dream for most of us, right? So my question is, do you do like group calls in that case, or can you create a price point that would make it viable for you and interesting enough for you? It may put some people off, but some people may come through the door at a really expensive price.
So here's what I share with a group like this, it's probably going to get out more and more, but everything I do right now is pro bono. I'm way at the end of my career. I'm trying to reach people that don't have an opportunity for mentoring from a lot of different programs. And I do have the people I work with individually, I do have a way that they make a donation of a certain amount. I keep raising it, and those people pay. But it's applied mostly to people who already have jobs who want to do some big career pivot or something more intense. I'm not being very descriptive about it. So yes, you're right. I do have a price point, but I'm also at a busy point, and to back up to your comment, I have office hours every month. Anybody can come, and she's on my email list. I have twice a year time to update your resume, co-working sessions, which turns into office hours. I have twice a month, half-hour, 45-minute professional development topic, and you can ask any question there. So there's a lot of ways she can get my time, and I keep reminding her of that, and she keeps asking me for booking. So she and a couple others in the last month, it's been a theme.
So I would say use the power of no. No, I do not. I'm so sorry, but at this point in my career, I do not. And sometimes we tend to play around the words because we're always still afraid of what about tomorrow, but use the power of no.
I've written myself a note, Pam. I'm gonna get brave.
Okay, that is what it is. So from a communication standpoint, which is where I speak from, and Sue, we should really talk offline at some point, but you have to just own that you don't do it. And once you own it, it will work.
There's a couple people in chat, Sue, that are saying, can you refer them to other people? Your dance card is full. I love that. So maybe you can overfill and say, I'm not available, but my friend Annette might be taking on new clients. Can I send you to her? Well, let's go on to Joey next. And then I see Annette and Jen have their hand raised as well. Go ahead, Joey.
Thanks, Brenda. So I'm torn, Sue. I have two opinions about this. So the salesperson in me, if I'm coaching these people, I'm saying, keep going, don't take no for an answer. Hold that thought. Now hold that thought. All right. Now, to Pam's point, and you can put my name on that note, every time you say yes to someone or something, you're saying no to someone or something else. So for what it's worth, I mean, your time there's only 24 hours in your day, right, Sue? So if you say yes to somebody who keeps harassing you, there you go. You're taking away from somebody else or even yourself. So it's okay to say no. It's not the end of the world. The world will continue to spin. But
this is why I need to be
here. Be
Thank
firm.
you.
Right. You got to be firm.
So
thank you, Joey. Annette?
Yeah. So Sue, you are so giving and generous that I know this is really hard for you, but the two favorite lines that I use that I learned actually from someone else, I think it was Tina, are to say either, I wish I could, but this is just not a good time for me. And if they're really pushy, I'll say, this just isn't doable for me. And I'm sure you would never do this, but I had someone a while ago persisting and pushing me to be on my LinkedIn Live for some reason, and was just pushing and pushing. And I just blocked her. And I know you would probably never block anyone, but
I do.
I mean, there are ways to just say, and no is a complete answer, but I find just saying, this just isn't doable for me, usually works, and I don't get much pushback. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Annette. Jen, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just building on whoever put something in the comments about referrals. So at the end of the day, we're here to help solve problems for people. And I'm curious if the reason it's not a good fit is kind of an energy personality thing, or is it a topic based? Because you could create, I mean, obviously there's several people here you've gotten to know, I'm sure, create a little referral sheet and say what they specialize in, if it's an area, and then you're still solving the problem by giving them another solution. It's just not you. But I don't know if fits this situation.
I like the addition to the comment in chat about the referrals of, I'm trying to figure out who to push her to. And unfortunately, I am an ideal profile for her because we have so much common in our backgrounds. And I'll have to think about it. But yeah, it's just the, it's not the can't say no, it's the say no and mean it. And I get it because I tell my mentees the same thing. It's so good to have this group of peers that I can get this advice from. Thank you, Brenda, for doing this. But the idea of a referral sheet where I need to proactively list like Linda and Mindy and Annette and those who I don't know as well, all of you on here, Joey. I know some of you very well from the work we do together. Yeah, Pam, would love to chat. But just generally with all of you, I'm going to go back now, download the chat and start making a referral sheet. Thank you for that idea. And I'll be happy to share it in the group as a Google Doc. And that way you could update what you want to say you do, not to put more work on your plate. But if you're interested, then we all have that doc as reference, if that would be helpful.
Well, hey, do you want that to be a Google Doc for the entire group of coaches and consultants who are on the call? Would it be okay if I created it?
Brenda, if you want to take on more work than you already do.
I say we'll take care of it. I'm going to use the royal we, and Julia is going to help. I mean, I don't know if Julia's like, I'm going to be doing it, but I think it will be something as simple as, and tell me if this is what you were thinking, first name, last name, LinkedIn URL, and then there'll be a space that people fill in. What is your area of specialty? And then maybe email address. And I think that'll be it. And this will be a Google Doc that will only be available to members who've been on these calls. So it won't be shared publicly, posted out unless we decide we want to do it. But I think it's more just internal reference material. And then, I think that would be great. And maybe we could even add a column, like a category, because there's some of us that are career as a category and some of us are, I don't know. We'll think about what those categories might look like, but maybe that might help. But Julie, I'm going to add that as a to-do for you, and we'll talk about that on our next project review call, getting that started. And then what we'll do is we'll email the group out. Anybody who's been on these calls, we'll send you the link and you can fill in your info. And then on every call in the future, we'll use that as an update. I think that's it's like the power of the group, right?
I'm
we all
thrilled.
came up with this together, right?
Right. And I don't have a to-do thing on my to-do list anymore, but I'll have the benefit of it. So yeah, I would love to have more from each of you about what you specialize in, because the one person I used to use for resumes, Jude and others know her, is no longer doing it because of her situation. And I want to be able to effectively refer someone. May not work for the two people that are pinging me regularly now, but I'll keep saying no. I'll keep you posted. Thanks.
Yeah. And and as a follow-up to that, I just had someone who emailed me who tried to get into the job seeker office hours today. And I emailed back and I said, hey, just so you know, we're not doing these every week right now. We're only doing these the first Friday in the month. We met last week. Here's where you can go to watch the playback. Here's the date for next month. And they said, well, can we jump on a call real quick? Because I have a question. I have a question for you. And I said, well, if it's a quick question, you can email me back. Otherwise, here's a link to schedule a 1-hour coaching call with me, unless your question can wait until October 6th. So you can get access to me, but you have to pay for that access to me. If it is just a quick question, you can email me, and I've had people message me, and I always encourage people to email me and message me questions, because a lot of times you'll have a question that I'll have already done a resource about, either a checklist or a blog or a video. And I can reply back to you and say, great question. Here's my blog about this topic. And if I haven't already done something about that, I go on to LinkedIn, and that's my post for the day on LinkedIn. Now, if I already posted on my personal profile that day on LinkedIn, I know there's an algorithm penalty that occurs if you post more than once within 18 hours. So I might go on my company page for Meller Marketing, and I put my question there. And I don't say this question came in from Linda or Sandra or Joey. I just say, this is a question that came in. Here's my response. I remove out any information that would identify the person, their company, industry, etc. I make it more generic. And then literally what I do is I copy the link to the post and I send that link to the person back in an email. I don't even copy and paste the full response. I'm not going to do that work for them. They've got to go on to LinkedIn, which then in turn helps me and helps the algorithm and helps with reach and impressions. I'm totally fine with sharing out free information, but I think all of us, if you are self-employed, you should be thinking about what's the tie to your business. I mean, there's something that's to be said about giving back and helping others, but at some point you got to take a look at, do you want to remain self-employed, or do you want to go back to work, in a corporate job? I don't want to go back to work in a corporate job. So I'm always going to be thinking about, if I'm giving myself out for free, what am I getting back as a part of that? And that's part of the reason I started doing these Zoom calls, broadcasting onto YouTube that will go onto a podcast. I am creating content. And the beauty of that is, not only am I helping, we're up to 18 people total on the call. Not only am I helping, and are we all helping each other, the 18 people on the call, we're also helping the people that find this on YouTube. We're also helping the people that listen to this in the podcast later. And by the way, those are probably going to be different people, because everybody prefers to consume information differently. And eventually Julia is going to help to make a podcast. They're called audiograms, like a 30-second soundbite, and she'll recirculate that on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. So it will help to reach more and more people. So what I want to encourage all of you to do is think about, if you are giving away yourself for free right now, how do you tie that back into something that supports your business? And let's use an example of a blog. If you blog, I think it's great to blog. At the end of every single blog, you should have a call to action that's related to something you offer for your business. Every one of my blogs will be a call to action. Hey, do you want to book me as a speaker for your conference or event? Here's the form you can fill out to learn more. Are you interested in getting more help with this type of LinkedIn strategy? Book a one-on-one call with me, or book a VIP package with me. So everything I have at the bottom of my blog, it's like a way of bringing people in to do business. And you might say, well, that's salesy, Yeah, but you know what? If they've read all the way down from the top of the blog all the way down to the bottom, they're consuming that information from me. They see it as valuable. I'm okay with putting it out on there. And it doesn't mean they have to buy it, but I'm planting the seed. This is something I offer, right? This is a service that I offer. I think it's important that we remind people of the value that we offer, and that this is a part of your business. So get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You don't have to say no to free, but you can say, if you want access to me free, here are the venues. You can come on my office hours calls once a month. You can email me or message me questions. Alternatively, if you want to work with me one-on-one, here is my link to schedule it. And I even had people that I know, they created, Terry Bean is the first person I saw it. It's the pick my brain rate. And when people say, hey, Terry Bean, I'd like to pick your brain, he will send them, I don't know if he still does this, he did this a while back, but he will send them a Calendly link, and it's called Pick My Brain, and there's a dollar amount that's attached to it. And if you want to pick Terry's brain, you're going to pay him for that. So, and other people I've seen do it in other ways as well. So sometimes when I get people reaching out and saying, hey, can you help me with this? I'll say, are you looking for free advice, or do you want to learn more about working with me one-on-one? Get comfortable with asking that. The people that are looking for free advice will say, I just want some free advice. Totally okay with that. Let's go through the questions. And sometimes they'll say, I'm not sure. Okay, so now you're in a potential sales conversation. Then I might move them off of LinkedIn or email into a discovery call. Let's figure it out. In the discovery call, 15 minutes, yeah, you'll probably get some free advice from me, but I only give you that link if I think there's a potential of you working with me. All right, I'm going to stop I don't want to say rant, because I felt like that was more like an inspiration, not like a pulling down, but I don't know. Is there a passive word for rant? If so, drop one into chat, because I'm sure there is one. All right, Joey has his hand raised, followed by Jen, followed by Jihan. Joey, what do you have to say?
Sue, when we started this segment, the first thing you asked us, you were looking for a script. So Brenda, don't listen. If you go into the transcript, Sue, and you look up 10:35:24, there's the beginning of your script. Brenda, don't listen. Okay, it's all there. You can massage it any way you want, but that's where you start. And when you get those calls or you get those emails, you can either recite that, or you can send it, press a button and send it back as an email. But there you go.
All right. Thank you, Joey.
That's
Jen?
really great, because you know what? You're giving me a taste of what I always do for mentees. Like, here's the start of your sample script. Thank you.
All right, Jen, and then Jihan.
Hello, everyone. I have an ask and a give. I guess I have a question and a give. So I'm going to do the give first because someone shared something with me yesterday that was so brilliant and I can't wait to go try it. It's the idea of using AI for videos. And I, as probably many of you, have created courses, online courses or long form videos, and they're only seen by the people who go through our programs. But using them little mini clips, reels to advertise our program, to use an AI tool such as Opus Pro and upload any video that you have, including a podcast, Brenda. I'm going to try this with my podcast too. It's brilliant. It's unbelievable how it takes a long video and offers suggestions for mini clips. It even rates them based on, how strong the hook is. And it gives it a title. It's really amazing. So that's my give. My ask is, I'm getting ready to schedule my next webinar. And in the past, when I've done events on LinkedIn, using the LinkedIn events, I get a really great response, but I tend to lose people because I need them to come over to Kajabi to click on a link, register there. I've tried double opt-in and I've tried single opt-in. The double opt-in, I lose people, they register, but I don't think they know that they have to do something else or they don't take that second step. So they don't actually make it through the full process. So the next time I tried to make it easier by doing single opt-in, and then I had a lot of people register, but they didn't say yes, I can't email them now. So I'm just asking how others have dealt with this effectively.
All right, I'll start. And then if any others in the group have comments for Jen on this, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you. I was doing the double opt-in because the industry always says it's better to have people verify that they're opting in. And when you do the double opt-in, when they subscribe and the thank you page, if you include instructions to say important, go to your inbox right now and verify. If you're not seeing it, double check the spam message, things like that. I'll be honest with you though, I just found that was such a big hurdle and a lot of people were missing it or were getting sidetracked. You register and then you get sidetracked on something and you forget to go back and check. So I actually changed all mine to just the single opt-in. I'll be honest, I haven't had any issues with it. If they want to unsubscribe, they can unsubscribe, and I've noticed my email open rates are a lot better because of that, because I'm not creating that additional hurdle. And I know it's an industry best practice to have a double opt-in, but I found for me and my community, it was just creating too much of a hurdle to my email open. So I went to single and I'm not looking back on it.
So my issue with it, Brenda, is that, so for my event, for example, that I had in July, they registered, but they didn't click, I guess they didn't actually opt in. So now I
they
have
registered on your
names.
LinkedIn event page?
They did actually register in Kajabi and the name is there, but because, I don't know if anyone here uses Kajabi, but because they're not checked in, they're not on my list as sending email marketing to. So they actually they're there, but they're not getting my emails. So
okay, so there's another thing you can do, Jen. When people register or purchase a product through your website, you can make it a default setting that they are added to your subscriber list for marketing emails. I can't give you the instructions right now on it for Kajabi, but I remember coming into that issue as well. They weren't fully opted in, even though they had registered. There is a way that you can add that in the back end. And then Kajabi just says you should have something saying by registering. I'm going to ask Julia. Julia, can you put the Finding Leads webinar registration link into the chat right now? Because you guys can look at this. I use this for my webinar. And there's a little disclaimer right under the form in which you register that says, by registering, you're agreeing to be added to my VIP email list where you'll get LinkedIn tips, blah, blah, blah. You can unsubscribe at any time, but you'll miss out on great free LinkedIn tips. So you give them that disclaimer on the front end. Depending on the level of Kajabi that you have, Jen, you can get access to Kajabi help through chat or through the help self-service menu. If you have any questions, I'll reach out separately and I'd be happy to help you with that. Does anyone
you.
else have any thoughts for Jen on double opt-in versus single opt-in? Has anyone else run into this issue? Want to offer anything? Okay. Was that helpful for you, Jen?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
And
thank
I'm
you.
seeing some stuff in the chat too. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and please drop in that that AI tool that you were talking about in chat. I would love to hear more about that. Cool. All right, G, you are up next. What can we help you with, or what do you want to share with us?
Hi. Well, first of all, speaking of Jen, because she is still on screen, I just want to say I love your glasses. I just got these. These are new glasses, and I'm looking at yours and I'm just thinking, oh gosh, man, I missed out. They're stunning. I just want to say what amazing.
Thank you. Here's
That's
the
it.
funny thing. These are literally readers from Anthropology. They were like $30 from Anthropology. I get a lot of compliments on them. Thank you. And I like yours as well.
Oh, thank you. So Brenda, you actually answered a question, the question I was going to ask earlier, already halfway through. So it has to do with that pick your brain pricing, which, you know, Terry Bean, awesome. I just love that he has that or had that. But along those lines, and this was my question was, first of all, if people here use that for people or for others and have that as an option on your calendar. And the reason I ask that question is because I was talking to someone the other day. Well, let me back up. I'm now venturing into my own business, expanding on my consultancy, blah, blah, blah. I'm still trying to figure out pricing, all of it. I'm hot mess personified from a pricing standpoint. Meanwhile, I'm still getting pinged even this week for things like, gee, love your LinkedIn profile. Gee, I want to pick your brain on this. Gee, I want to do that. Da, 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 da. And I've had to say no. So going back to the no conversation earlier, I was inspired by that one, by the way, too. Lots going on today. And knowing that we only have so many hours in the day, I want to make sure going forward that when people come to me, you know, I'm still struggling with this saying no to people or, oh, I don't have time for you, because I also come from a place of having been a job seeker. And Brenda knows this because I've spent years on her Friday calls. And I want to be that compassionate person for people who have these miscellaneous needs, but also recognizing that many times none of that converts. And I have given so much over the years. And people are now starting to chastise me for continuing to give when really I need to kind of, you know, rein it all in and tie it together. And so going back to that, pick your brain rate. Are people here doing that? And if so, what is reasonable?
Okay, so is anybody doing a pick the brain rate, and what is considered reasonable? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Brian or Annette, something different? Or did you want to answer to G? Brian?
My answer to that is one that you put in my head, Brenda, and I'm starting to do for weight loss clients is I do a free half-hour Facebook Live. They opt in, and then if there's more questions after that and they haven't opted in for a coaching group, I charge less than therapy and less than coaching, but I do a group answer thing, and it's $40 for a half hour. And I've had 2 or 3 people opt in, and it's almost like a cheap half-hour coaching because 1 or 2 people will ask a question. And I'll try to be brief and ask, you know, do you want me to keep talking on this, or does somebody else have another question? And they feel like they're getting, you know, personalized consulting, coaching, and solid answers more than they would in a free consult for me to sell coaching, but less than I would charge for my regular group counseling. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And the thought is, if you think less than a therapy hour charge or less than you charge for a half hour of your time anyway, and you have multiple people opt in for Q&A, that's one way to not, quote, waste your time for free.
Annette, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, I'd actually just like to kind of share a line. And I, like a lot of people, I do intro calls, a free intro call, like 20 minutes with me. And it's, you know, talk about my services and their needs, et cetera. And often I think we all get people who want to keep picking our brains. And I learned a line years ago from my friend Lisa. And what I say to them is, this is really turning into a coaching call. If you'd like to book some time with me, and then I have a, you know, hourly rate, whatever, that they can pick my brain for a half an hour, an hour. And usually when I say that to people, they do kind of just back off and realize that, yeah, they're kind of stepping over the line. So I like that line. It works for me. And I just wanted to share it.
Great. Thank you, Annette. All right. Pam, did you want to add something to that?
I actually want to ask a question to that. So a lot of the people who want to pick my brain, and I want to pick their brains too, are people that I'm not necessarily friends with, but actually connected in the real world with, or some part of a circle. How do you do that with a charge?
Okay. So they know you. So it's a friend, so you might feel weird on charging them, I think is what the vibe is there, right?
Can you barter? It's like bartering.
Bartering. There are bartering groups out there. My sister-in-law was telling me all about bartering groups and how she uses them for their business. There's some bartering groups in Michigan as well. I reached out to one on LinkedIn, of course, because that's where I go, and they haven't responded back to me yet. So I'm waiting to hear that. But I have done some agreements where it's kind of an exchange. There's a guy that I use for IT support. He answers website questions for me and IT questions. And then in exchange, anytime he has LinkedIn questions, I help him. So sometimes it can be like a handshake type of an agreement where you do that, I found. I honestly, sometimes I do the same thing with my friends who are asking me for LinkedIn questions as I do for the people I don't know. If it's a quick question, I'll tell them if it's a quick question, if you don't mind emailing me, because I might have a blog or resource already on the topic. If it's something that you're looking to work with me one-on-one and learn about my services, let me know. There are some people, I'll be honest with you, that I feel like this whole concept of social media karma is at play. Like they have made so many deposits into the Brenda jar over the year. I would feel guilty charging them. There's no way your money's any good here type of a scenario. And those people, even if I say I'll do it for free, they will offer to pay me. And I would say I would feel so guilty, taking your money. If anything, if they're local, I'll say, if you want, we can meet for coffee and you can buy my coffee. And that's as much as I will take from you. I want to see if there are others in the group that have suggestions for Pam. Linda, did you want to add something to that? I saw your hand was raised.
No, actually, I had another question just to build on it.
Okay. Any other thoughts for Pam? And how do we address the issue if it's friends? Jen, go ahead.
This is addressing whether it's friends or just someone who you feel is taking advantage of you. I had a call with an attorney for trademark question, and she said something to me that I thought, wow, I need to use that, even though it was a little direct. But some of the questions I was asking, at some point she said, these are the kinds of things we would cover when you hire me. And so friends, obviously more tricky. And I have played that both ways. But I think at some point you can say something like, these are the types of topics that we're getting into now that are the things I would do if we were working together as coaching client. That's something to try. Certainly for people who are picking your brain too far, I think it's a great line. Like, this is the type of things the types of topics we would discuss if we were coaching together.
You just made me think of something else too, Jen, that I'll offer to Pam and to others as well. When I get the people that are like, hey, can we do a quick get to know you chat or pick your brain or things like that? And maybe it could lead to something where it could be a referral back and forth. I usually feel like it's more like them trying to sell to me or to tap into my network than it is, reciprocal. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll use the dog walk thing. Sure, provide me your cell phone number. The next time I'm out walking the dog, I'll text you and we can jump on the phone. Sometimes I do the, sure, I walk the dog early in the morning at about 7:45. I've usually got time between 7:45 and 8:15. If that works for you, give me your cell phone number and I'll jump on the phone with you. So I'm multitasking in there, but I'm respecting my time and boundaries. And I'll say, alternatively, if you're interested in coaching, let me know and I can provide you some information on my regular scheduling link. Joey, did I hit a nerve with you on something there?
You did. I'm thinking about the doctors that I know who not constantly because I'm in good health, but back in the day, whenever I found one of my doctor friends were in a social situation, I'd say, hey, Jim, hey, Sue, right? And I asked them a question. And then most of the time they were willing to give me, their professional and medical advice. But one of them once said, Joey, if you make an appointment, we could do this officially. And I heard that. I was taken aback, but it made sense to me. So Pam, if you want, go talk to your doctor friends and ask them, how do they deal with this scenario, and see what they come up with. Or everybody, just, ask your doc, because I'm sure, or your mechanic friends, right? People that are professionals, your plumbers, right? Who are professionals who have the skill that you don't have. Ask them, how do you respond when somebody says to you, how do I make this work? Can you, right? Just throwing that out there. So sorry.
All right. Love it. Thank you, Joey. Okay. We're going to move on to Linda, if that's okay. I think Linda was up in the queue next. So Linda, how can we help you?
So I'm really building on all of this. I do some of those discovery calls as well, and I'm having trouble with some people moving from the coaching aspect of it. It often turns into a short coaching call into the here's how we can work together kind of aspect. So I'm looking for suggestions about how to move that off. Part of it is my own, I get caught up in the coaching and I know that. But how do I move it from finding out about what they're looking for and how we can work together is really where I want to go, as opposed to just providing that as a free coaching session.
Okay. So any thoughts on how to convert the free coaching sessions to potentially a client? Am I capturing what you said correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thoughts. Mindy, do you have a thought for Linda or something different?
I have a thought for Linda.
Go ahead.
Huge issue for those of us who always want to serve, right? That's what we became coaches, because we want to serve people. And so I ran into this so often. And I always like to start my call. And I think everything since I learned how to do this, you've got to set expectations up front, because otherwise, if you're not controlling the call, then they will control the call. And so having a set, start with a script so you can know what you're saying. But hey, I'm glad to have this call today. Today we're going to go over what your resume looks like and what you'd like it to look like, what your goals are, and what you'd like to see changed, right? And keep it really short and succinct so that when we start veering off, we can come back to those 3 goals that they told you. You have to ask them, what are your goals? What would you like to accomplish during this call? My goal, and I always say this up front also, is that you leave the call knowing more than you came into the call with. And whether you use me or not, I want to make sure that you get value from this time that we're together. And so I think setting expectations is super important up front. It is very difficult to stop someone when they say, oh, but I just want to ask you one more question. And I think Jen said it, or someone said, and that's what we would talk about on our next call. And I would love to open my calendar and let's talk about what's convenient for you. So I think it's setting expectations, being clear about the ask, saying, that's what we'll talk about when we work together. I think that can help Linda. And Linda, I know you're just starting this process, so it's very hard to do that. I also was my discovery calls could go on for an hour, and I can't do that anymore. It's not, you can't do that. So you have to be careful. And I also only schedule discovery calls for 30 minutes. I don't go over the 30.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start to bring us to close because I just looked up. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 11. The hour flew by. What didn't you think it did? First of all, I want to thank all of you for participating. I felt like this was very much a good open office hours, where if we were in the workplace, we were all kind of sitting around the conference room table together, sitting and sipping our coffee and sharing ideas. I love it because when you work by yourself, when you're self-employed, sometimes it gets kind of frustrating. And sometimes there's like, I know somebody else has to be going through the same thing. I know this is not something I'm alone in dealing with. I do have to say, when I first started my business, I did discovery calls all the time for free. Now I don't. If somebody reaches out and says, pick my brain, I don't do that. Now, if they are a former client who has paid for my services, I always tell my clients, you're a client for life. If you have a quick question, you can email me. And I do this at the end of our engagement, at the end of our coaching call or the last conversation. I remind them, you are a client for life. If you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, you can message me on LinkedIn with your questions. If it's a quick question, I'll be happy to answer it for you. Or if we need to jump on for a quick phone call, we can do that. I will let you know if I think it's something that will take more than just a few minutes, and then I can provide you with my rates for additional coaching services. And they're usually fine with that because they've already paid for me at this point. For the people that are coming in looking for free advice, or do you offer any discovery calls? Do you offer free coaching sessions, things like that? I'm now in the frame and mindset, and it took me a long time to get here. Free is in group. That's where you get me for free. You get me free in a group. That's where you get me free live in a group. If you want me one-on-one, you have to pay for my services. One-on-one in a Zoom call or anything like that. There's always the exceptions, right? And those are the people that get the dog walk thing, or send me your cell phone. When I have a few minutes, I'll text you and we can jump on the phone. So there's some alternatives to there. If they're looking for some advice, again, I'm going to remind you of the path. You can say, are you asking them, are you looking for free advice, or did you want to learn more about my services? Free, give them the options. Let them, give them 2 paths to go. If they're looking for free, here's where you can go. This is what you can learn. This is how you can access me. Paid, here's an overview of my products and services. And I give them my one-to-one LinkedIn page, and I'll say, review this. So this gives them the opportunity to look at what are the packages and services I offer. Look at the dog from Annette. After they've had a chance to review, I say, message me back and I'll give you my link for a 15-minute discovery call. I do not do 30-minute discovery calls, because you know what Brenda does when she does a 30-minute discovery call? She coaches for free. She's not good. She has to set limits. I'm talking about myself in the third person because that's how I know I am. You have to set limits. Do 15 minutes. And you know what? You get into a 15-minute call, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to have a lot of small talk. They're going to go right off the bat. And if they get into asking you questions, you say, these are the types of things that we would cover if you're working with me one-on-one. Did you get a chance to review that web page with the services? Would it be helpful if I pulled it up on screen right now? Well, I just have one quick question. I usually don't get too many of those people. Like after I've drawn the line in the sand and I let them know, they usually don't push back too much on that. And if they do, I just nudge them back again. Yeah, again, Linda, this is something I think it'll take more than 15 minutes to cover. I'd love to be able to help you out. If you want, we could start with a 1-hour session. And then if that works out good for you, then we can look at the VIP package or, something else instead. In the meantime, if you have quick questions, you can email me. I can send you my blogs and my resources, but you got to get into the habit of just repeating it and not falling back into the free trap. Because we all have 24 hours in a day. I heard somebody say, that's all. We all have 20. I have 48, you guys. I multitask the heck out of it. But if you want to be more successful in your business as a solopreneur, whether you're a coach, consultant, speaker, or author, you have to protect your time. You have to know your boundaries, and you have to stand your value. I think your audience will respect you so much for that. All right, with that said, I'm going to start to wrap us up here for today. Thank you all so much for attending. Reminder, this call is always the second Friday of every month from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Please look at your calendar right now and make sure that you've got the recurring calendar invite in there. If you don't, use the same Zoom link for today and just make it a recurring calendar invite. You can join us week after week. If you ever have a friend or a fellow coach consultant that you'd like to invite to the call, you can do an email exchange with me and I'll provide them info on how they can register. Your Zoom link is unique to you. We do have a maximum of 100 seats. I'm hoping we have a problem at that point where we may have to upgrade, but right now we're at a smaller group size so we can accommodate everyone. I thank you all so much for attending. I'll remind you to look inside the group for the playback. And once we get the podcast live, you'll all be on the podcast with me. So exciting. And in the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to stop the recording right now, which will stop our broadcast on YouTube. And then I will stop. I think that actually stops the recording in the Zoom as well. I'm going to keep this open for just a few minutes in case anyone would like to download the chat. A reminder to download the chat, go to where it says to everyone. Off to the right-hand side, you should see 3 little dots, or maybe below it'll be 3 little dots. If you click on Save Chat, it will allow you to download the full chat from the call. Alternatively, if you click on where it has the captions, if you click on captions, and then you should see an option that says View Full Transcript. Click on that and then you'll see save transcript and it will pull down the full transcript from the call. And I think it has the person's name, the timestamp. I got to look back and see what Joey said for me not to read because that's like a challenge. I'm like, I got to go read what he said.
No,
What
I
was
don't
it
want,
with
I
the
don't want
son? Are
you
you
to
gonna
feel